Welcome, everybody. This is another video in the series being done by the Academy of Adoption and Assisted Reproduction Attorneys. Today, we're covering the state of Washington. And as with all of the videos, you are about to meet some of the top professionals in reproductive industry. And I would like you to each introduce yourself so the public gets to know you. Let's start with Reagan. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Reagan Rasnick. I use she, her pronouns. I have been practicing assisted reproduction law in Washington since about 1998, and I've been a fellow of the Academy since 2004. I live in Seattle with my family and 2 kids and a very small insistent dog.
There you go. Insistent. That's a good word for little dogs. All right, Mark Demarais.
Hi, I'm Mark Demarais. I've been a member of the Academy since inception, then next year, maybe 25 plus years. And in all that time, the Academy started as an adoption related academy, but that was the only code provisions allowed to establish parentage. So we started doing assisted reproduction law very early on. I live in Edmonds, just a north suburb of Seattle, and really enjoy living out here in the state of Washington. Very friendly now towards assisted reproduction.
There you go. All right, Demetra.
Hi, I'm Demetra Scott. I'm a family law attorney, also practicing in art specifically. I've been in practice for about 18 years. I'm also in Edmonds, Washington, and had the privilege of working with Mr. Demarais for the entirety of my practice. I have 2 young kids who keep us very, very busy, and we live also in the area near our office. And that's it.
No problem. All right. And Rita.
Yes, my name is Rita Bender. I looks like not only because of my hair, but other reasons, I am the oldest person on this call. I've been in practice for, I think, 53 years. First for a few years in the state of New Jersey and in Washington state ever since. A lot of my practice over this time has dealt with adoption and assisted reproduction and other family law matters, although I've also over the years done a considerable amount of work in the area of attorney discipline ethics.
Fascinating. All right. And Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Keys. I'm the managing attorney for Reproductive Law Center. I'm licensed in both Washington and California. I've been practicing exclusively in the area of assisted reproduction for about 17 years now. Fun fact, I was an egg donor in law school. And that's it.
All right, great. All right, let's talk about the state of Washington. I think people are coming to this video thinking to themselves, do I go to Washington or do I not? Mark, you already gave us a little bit of insight into that, but Washington's a friendly state for assisted reproduction.
Washington it's been pretty user-friendly. We had some of the early donor laws. Really, it was the sperm donor law. We used that by really analogy in the early days because there wasn't much other statutory provision, and we also used some of the adoption code provisions to establish parentage. But I've spent a lot of time in my 40 years of practice working with our state legislature to help try and make our laws better. And we worked on assisted reproduction law many times. Most recently in 2019, we were first state to pass the most recent version of the Uniform Parentage Act that included a lot of the new assisted reproduction provisions. So Washington now has black letter statutory law that really has a good system for establishing parentage, for allowing surrogacy contracts and donor contracts and all of that. It really is a much better system now. It's always been fairly friendly in the state with judges and the system, but now it's very clear and pretty straightforward for families that there's any contact with Washington. We usually look pretty hard at doing it as a Washington contract since it's so easy to establish parentage. Pre-birth orders, very friendly with the courts, no court appearances, that kind of thing. So it's usually pretty user-friendly for the families involved and protective. We spent a lot of time making sure that the new statutory scheme was protective of surrogates and donor families as well as the intended parents. And I think it's done a pretty good job. We've been working with it for 3 years now, and very few problems, at least in our practice, in the many cases that we've worked on.
Great. So Reagan, tell us, a good percentage of this area of law are individuals within the LGBTQ area. Is it a friendly state for them to go to?
It is a very friendly state. Our state treats intended parents the same, regardless of their gender or sexual orientation or marital status. So it's a very friendly state for assisted reproduction in Washington. If you are a single person, or if you're in a relationship that's a non-marital relationship, if you have a partner you're not married to and you want to start a family, or if you have a non-marital or spouse who is the same gender, we have laws that allow for parentage to be established for a whole variety of families. And the Quad A Fellows in Washington worked really hard to get that into our statute. And we were very pleased that over the last few years, we have been able to serve all families, and that Washington has really been open to giving a way and an avenue for people to create families, regardless of what they may look like.
Okay, great. Michelle, as far as kind of the steps and stages of a surrogacy matter in the state of Washington, can you just give us a quick glimpse at what that looks like?
Yeah, basic steps is there's sort of 2 phases. The first would be the contract phase. So the intended parents and the surrogate are going to enter into a contract that complies with the statutory requirements in Washington. And they'll use a lawyer on both sides to help with that. And then the second step is going to be generally a pre-birth order. So it's establishing the parental rights of the intended parents through the courts in Washington. And Washington has a great system set up for that. They've got, standard court forms that are filed in a surrogacy case. And as long as you've met the statutory requirements in the contract, you're going to be able to get that parentage order prior to the birth.
Great. So Demetra, you get a lot of intended parents asking, how hard is it to get a birth certificate? Is it procedurally difficult? So especially if they're international and they want to go home. So can you tell us what that's like in Washington?
Yeah. So our Department of Health here in Washington has a specific form that the hospital can complete at birth. And so long as that's timely submitted by the hospital, the birth certificate is generally issued relatively quickly, especially if we've already received a pre-birth order. For our international intended parents, sometimes they also require or instead require an order that's entered post-birth, and that's also an option. But it is a relatively streamlined process. It is pretty friendly for intended parents to get that initial birth certificate with them identified as the parents. And it's pretty efficient in terms of timing.
Wonderful. And Rita, I can't think of a better person to answer this question, but what is the benefit of Academy Fellows working together, or individuals reaching out to somebody who is a fellow of the Academy?
Well, I think the reality is when I first doing this practice, and not too long thereafter, Mark also, I think there were relatively few lawyers in the state who did this practice or understood what some of the issues were that might crop up. Over the years, with an increasing number of highly qualified lawyers who are doing this work and who understand what the issues are and what their clients' needs are, it has become an extremely cooperative practice. And that's very pleasurable. It's good for our clients, it's good for us.
I have to agree. So all of those that are listening right now, and you want to talk to any of these professionals in greater detail, if you have any just random questions about use of the state of Washington for anything reproductive technology or reproduction related, then you need to go to our website. The Academy has a map, and on that map, you can choose the state of Washington. You can get the contact information for each of these fellows. And that website is adoptionart.org. And we look forward to you clicking on their names, obtaining a consult from any of them. And all of you, thank you so much for sharing today and telling us more about the state of Washington.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.